Hello, Nick. Thank you very much for agreeing to come and talk to me on the Pink Pod.
Pleasure.
I wonder whether you could begin by introducing yourself to our listeners or members.
Yeah, okay. Well, you've already introduced me, Nick. So I am a relatively recent member of Condors. I joined last year. And although I have attended a few Condor events, done a few, rides tagging along to see what it was all about. It wasn't until last year that I actually got my act together and became a member. So I guess it's all relatively, new ground for me. Outside of cycling and all of that, I live and work in Oxford. I've probably been interested in cycling for 10 years, for around 10 years, as something which is more than just sort of like, hop on your bike, go to the shops. I don't know. Does that help?
Yeah,
is that a good intro?
Yeah, I think that's a really good intro, and hopefully it prompts a question, which is, what do you think has prompted that transfer of or transformation of your cycling from something which you've been interested in to something that you want to do in a group?
So, I think, at risk of going too deep too quickly, I think there is something really, really satisfying and sort of there's a kind of a feeling of this is how we're meant to be, in the sense of being in a group setting, sort of doing a shared task or having a shared experience, I think that before I ever kind of rode in a group, I think my kind of expectation was that it was going to be more like, I don't know, maybe doing drills if you're part of a kind of a sports team. But I think the reality, at least in my experience, has been that it's more of a social experience. The cycling is a kind of integral part of obviously a group ride, but there's something more that I get from a group ride than fitness, or the experience of going out and about and going on a little jaunt. There's a kind of a interesting kind of connection piece going on there.
It sounds like deep. no, not too deep at all. I mean, it's something that inevitably I think about a lot as a leader of a community, about why people are coming together, because this is an activity that you can do on your own, right? When I go out for a ride, I'll see loads of people, particularly men, on their own, and that's fine. They're riding, and this is maybe time away from their family, time to get some mental stillness, all kinds of things. So it's an activity that you can do on your own, and there are plenty of reasons why you do so. But there's another thing going on, right? There's another way of doing it, which is that it can be profoundly social, as you've said. And it sounds to me like that took you slightly by surprise.
Yeah, I think it did. I think I had an apprehension of things like my fitness in comparison to other people, and I think whether if I was struggling, the group's just going to kind of head off, and you get to know those things in advance, right? Whether it's what kind of ride it's going to be, I think the kind of the sort of the response to the first time I did a group ride was very much a sort of I really sort of enjoyed the I suppose the social aspect of it, but also the almost like a kind of a clashing together of people that you've never met, right? There's a real satisfaction in sitting, alongside someone and having a conversation whilst everyone's doing, an activity, a little bit like what we're doing at the moment, having a little kind of meandering conversation and getting to know a little bit about, a snippet of what their life looks like. And it might be that you become great friends. It might be that you go on another ride with them in the future. It might be you never see them again.
It could have been that was your 30-second turn, and you won't talk to them again.
Indeed, yeah.
It's very interesting for me to hear about the experience of somebody relatively new to group riding and new to the club voice that sense that what group cycling looks to be is not really the reality. That it seems like the nature of social interaction is going to be maybe whether you're fit enough. Like it's being measured against one another. It's about, can you do the right kinds of moves, maybe the right signals, referring to drills and that kind of thing. And actually the experience is a much more social one, where this is more about the conversations that you're going to have and how you rub along and compromise with other people.
There's also, I think, like having said all that and what you just said there about how you ride as a group, there's also something very satisfying in how you achieve something as a group, right? When you do build in the idea of how do you move around a urban setting versus out in the middle of the Chilterns in the middle of nowhere, how as a group do you need to think about how you're slowing down that you don't necessarily need to do as an individual. There's something quite satisfying about collectively doing something and sort of responding to each other, admittedly in a very intentional way, right? But that that you're sort of focused around a bit of a kind of, I don't know, collective endeavour of some kind. I don't know.
I mean, I love all of the things that you're saying, partly because I also find them intriguing, but the thing that you're, I guess, touching on here is important for me, which is when you're in a group, you think about yourself, but you're also your sense of self is transformed by the being in a group, so that the question is not just, can I stop for that line or that light, but can we stop for that line, that light? What's the experience for the rider that's five people back? That I am no longer the same kind of entity on the road. I mean, I think we're indulging each other in going deep, but I do think it's really interesting, just because these are the underpinnings of a group activity. And there's a lot of anxiety around joining a group.
Yeah, I think that's right. And admittedly, I still have that. I have aspirations of, it would be great to get out there and, chain gang, is that the the kind of you're constantly cycling through, and it's a fast pace, and maybe if you drop behind you're dropped, and and I like that. So that's upfront sort of rules, and I've sort of aspirations to do that, but still there's a little bit of a kind of trepidation about getting involved in even trialing that. But that is something that would be good to do at some point, at least see where it leads me.
I mean, it's maybe slightly unfair of me, but you're touching on some of the real keynotes that about moving into a group and joining a cycling club that I think probably everybody listening will have encountered, but maybe not heard articulated in the way that you're doing. And I think being on that tipping point between social riding, where you're chatting and you know that you're not going to be left behind, you know that everyone's there to look after you, you know what speed you're going to be going because you've all signed up to it, all of that stuff. And then there's also that more kind of competitive edge that there can be in group riding, where you're all working together, but to sort of take lumps out of each other as well. And they're feeling that maybe what's going to happen today is that I try my best and I'm not quick enough.
Yeah. I think there's something interesting about that idea of sort of allowing there to be play and allowing there to be competitive play and sort of sort of bringing a bit of a game to it, right? A bit of with all of the stuff that I was just saying, I also enjoy solo riding, pitting myself against myself, trying to, get a time that I, I'm hoping to kind of push myself towards, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that, I suppose, a group ride, depending on what the constraints are, offers you options to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I can't remember the original question. I can't remember how we meandered this.
I was going to say we've moved on, as we should in a conversation, right? So I wonder whether I can ask you a little bit about how you got into riding. You said this happened 10 years ago. Really, I guess you probably learned to ride as a child.
Yeah,
it's an assumption, but yeah. And then you came back to the bike after a period off.
Not necessarily that. I think so. Always. The bike was a sort of a little means of mini freedom, right? As a child, so that you can cycle to your friend's house. And I grew up pretty rurally, so cycling was probably the most accessible way to, cycle to a village shop, which is a very exciting thing as a sort of, 9-10-year-old. So I think there was all of that. And which I'd imagine is the experience of a lot of people who maybe didn't grow up in the middle of a city, possibly. And coincidentally, which I'm finding very satisfying, teaching my kids to ride a bike at the moment. But anyway, and then I think so. I grew up on the edge of Salisbury Plain, so there's a lot of quite interesting mountain biking around there. So did, bits and bobs, but I don't think I necessarily considered myself someone who was into cycling, right? It was something that, there was a bike. I had a bike. I could ride it, as and when I wanted to, but it wasn't part of my identity necessarily. I think, probably, it was relatively recently to moving to Oxford about 10 years ago that I think I started to get a bit more interested in cycling.
So I guess the comparison that I'd make is that as a child you don't internalize that sense of riding a bike as an identity. Not many children do, in the same way that most people who learn to drive a car don't think of themselves as a driver.
Indeed,
right? It's just a thing that they do in order to haul back all of the shopping from the supermarket, say, or to go on holiday or go and see their parents, whatever it might be. And I guess that's the bike performs a similar role. It's very functional, but it's horizon broadening. It's a very empowering tool, isn't it?
Nevertheless, I've got wonderful memories of cycling and stuff. It wasn't purely a means of transport, and I have had great experiences. But I suppose it just wasn't something that I would necessarily. If someone said, who are you? What are you all about? I don't know if I'd
you weren't a child cyclist.
Said, I'm a cyclist.
Yeah. But the implication is that that's changed at some level. That you.
Yeah. I suppose. More latterly, cycling is probably the sport that I identify most with. I've never been particularly sporty. I'm really not very competitive. My mum was desperate for me to be into sport, and me and my dad have really no interest in sort of watching sport, playing sport. And for me, cycling was something where I kind of went, oh, okay, this is something clicks for me a bit here. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a complete obsessive, but I think if I had to kind of align myself with one particular sport, that's a sport that I align myself with. To the extent where I do actually watch cycling, if the Tour de France is on, or maybe some highlights or whatever, and then I start to kind of read about a few other races, and okay, so it's tickling a little bit of a kind of side of me, which I'm like, oh, okay, didn't necessarily
reaching a part that other sports couldn't reach.
Indeed.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? I wonder what it is about it, like how it's slid into that role that in a way that other sports were a turn off.
I don't know. I think it's probably one thing is that it's a sport I took up as an adult. Again, I did as a child, but I took up as a sport as an adult.
Does that mean it doesn't have the sort of hangover of associations with school?
Possibly, yeah. That's probably
being
last
to be picked for football. That kind of experience that we all find, horrible.
I think for me, cycling also sort of aligns with a lot of other parts of me. Like I really like the opportunity for adventure in cycling. That you can jump on your bike and you can go, and then you can get to a point and be like, okay, I can either go back the way I came, or I can figure out how I get back, or that you can set yourself a route and then follow that route, but it all be new. Or indeed you can do a multi-day trip and a cycling holiday, and it the more I've started to kind of do those things, the more I realize, this feeds the sort of the adventure thirsty part of me that also needs to kind of sit with the life that I lead, which isn't necessarily I can kind of go off and do whatever adventurous thing I'd like to do anytime.
I mean, adventure and exploration are words that we don't really often hear used in relation to sports, and it occurs to me that as you describe these, a lot of the sports that you've decided were not for you are very physically circumscribed, right? We have a football pitch beyond which no football happens. We have a rugby pitch, a hockey pitch, like that sense that I'm going to go out on my bike and today I'm going to turn left and tomorrow I'll turn right, and today I'll do it for 2 hours and tomorrow I'll do it for 4. That the pitch doesn't have bounds in the same way, and that really changes what it's about.
I think you're right.
So it's interesting. I wanted to ask about how you ended up coming to Condors. So we've mentioned a bit about how group cycling is still a relatively new thing for you. You said that you joined last year. Why Condors? Why us? I mean, I'm really pleased, but why us, right? Oxford is full of bikes and cyclists.
So I have a few friends that were Condors when I wasn't a Condor and still are Condors, and again, kind of were encouraged to come along to a group ride. So I did a couple of group rides. Maybe just one or two, just as a kind of visitor. I don't know what you'd call.
I mean, I think the technical term is non-door.
Sure,
but now you've come across.
That rolls off the tongue much better. So that was for rides. But I think so. I came along to a screening night. Where there are a few kind of different cycling documentaries, and it was a really lovely opportunity to meet people, watch these beautiful films, which is an interest of mine in itself. Drink delicious beer, the Tap Social, and I think for me. That something clicked in my mind there, that it was again, it scratched that social itch as well as a want to kind of be more kind of involved in like-minded cyclists.
So you came along and you thought, oh well, as well as the friends that I already know, like, these seem like the kind of people that I'd enjoy spending time with, doing this kind of thing. And I was very pleased to find a Christmas card delivered through my door at Christmas that had no stamp on it and had been delivered by hand, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I think that's above and beyond. Well, I'm pleased you liked it, and I'm pleased that you noticed that it had been delivered by hand, because lots of board members had worked very hard doing lots
impressive.
of them. So I was very grateful to them, and I don't think anyone feels touched by it being delivered by stamp, even though by the mail, even though that's a much more expensive way of doing things.
I mean, I would have been very happy with it. I've been very happy with an email, but there's something. There's definitely something there. That there was something then that I really kind of solidified. That this I suppose the club aligns with a lot of my values. It align. It makes sense, and it feels good.
That's really
feels
nice
like a
to hear.
kind of community to be involved
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
That's lovely to hear.
I don't want to sound like I'm some kind of Condor salesman here.
I think that's my
I haven't
job.
been. Yeah.
No,
haven't been prompted.
But it's really interesting to hear, because as somebody who's spent years in the club planning events and helping to make things happen, you're never quite sure what lands, right?
Sure.
Somebody might see, they've got a team time trial, and that's really exciting. Yeah. That's going to get me along. And then the other person might think, well, there's no cinema night. What am I? That's not my kind of place.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to hear what are the things that land.
Yeah.
So yeah. Tell me a little bit about big cycling things that you've done in the past. What's been feeding this growing and changing hobby?
So in 2017, I rode with a couple of friends from Oxford to their hometown in Poland, Bielsko-Biała. That's butchered pronunciation of it.
Good work.
But that was a kind of, that represented like a sort of, again, that shift into, like let's take cycling a bit serious. Let's do stuff like training, and
you don't ride to Poland lightly.
Well, indeed, and I did it expecting it to be a real slog, and it was challenging at times. But what was, I think, amazing about the experience was so we used warm showers, the website to sort out kind of accommodation. So people were putting us up out of the kindness of their hearts and out of, I suppose, an interest in cycling, and we did it for charity. So there was an element of supporting that part of the trip. But it gave me a real insight into the sort of the communities that are formed around cycling, because we would do stuff. We'd ride into a town, and the cycling club would have contacted us a few days before to say, we'll ride out, we'll meet you, we'll ride in, and then they'd take us out for beers in some beautiful German town and sort of show us the sights and all this kind of stuff. And it was all linked with cyclists. That was the kind of the thread.
I mean, as you're telling me this, I'm hearing how this translation has happened from riding on your own to riding with friends to riding with groups to joining a group. That we can see how something which is great on your own can also open you out to whole other communities, because we gather around these effectively random objects, but they are. Turns out they're really good for doing certain things in terms of community. Yeah, so absolutely.
So I think that definitely set me on the course, and then subsequent trips away to cycling holidays essentially, and I think realizing that to cycle somewhere is a really fantastic way to visit that place, right? It's or indeed just to cycle through somewhere, or even though it's transient, that you get a much more tangible like feeling and understanding and connection to that place than you would if you drove in, stayed in a hotel, had breakfast and drove off. Or indeed, arguably, I think if you, stayed a little kind of weekend break in a city, you get to see the center of that city. But I think, when you cycle in or out of a city, you see the kind of countryside turn to the sort of the fringe of a city, and then the suburbs, and then you're suddenly in the center of wherever it is, you're cursing the cobbles or
through what I think is it Tim Moore, the cyclist journalist, through the Aldi belt, which of course all cyclists, all touring cyclists know, where you think, it's time to refuel, passing through the Aldi belt. I mean, I think what you're talking about is a really visceral experience. It's immersive, and it does form a really pointed contrast with other forms of transport. I suppose at the other extreme is something like flying, right? Where you get in this box near a city, and then something happens, and then you get out of the box and you're in a different nearer city. But it feels as if you've got no sense of the travel as such. It's just that some time is passing, whereas with a bike, it's obviously slow and it's connected to your effort, so you know how far you're going. Like, this is a big city because it's taking a lot of time and effort to cross, and that does change your relationship to travel, I think, in a really profound way.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it gives you, I suppose, a way of experiencing somewhere in a different way. In summer, we went to a wedding in France, and I was that husband who insisted on bringing his bike, much to my wife's joy, because we were going to be staying near Ventoux. So I was able to do Ventoux, but that was a really interesting one. Driving past it, so we were about an hour south of it at the wedding, and then we stayed sort of in that area on the way back up. And driving past Ventoux, you see it and you think, oh, okay, yeah, that looks awesome. But if I didn't have my bike, that would be my only experience of seeing it. Arguably, you can get an idea of it through those iconic stages in the Tour de France, or I suppose endless YouTubers who do it, and arguably you could walk it, which I think would be a really amazing experience. But cycling it, I think, hits a really lovely middle ground of, I was able to get up early in the morning, shoot off, do the ride, come back, and sort of about lunchtime.
I was going to say, you also made this sound like that was no thing.
Yes.
Like then you were fully functional for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. But there's something about cycling up a big old hill that really makes you kind of appreciate the difference between a kind of a slight percentage in incline, or suddenly what happens when the wind comes swinging around a bend or whatever it is. And
you know what a mountain is, not just in terms of statistics, it's above this amount, but you feel it. Right?
Yeah.
It lasts for this many hours, or it hurts this much, or it takes this long to get down. I've also had the pleasure of cycling up Mont Ventoux, and one of the things that I hadn't appreciated until I did it was the sense that there is no view at the top because you're too high. Yeah. Right? So if you're in the mountains in the Alps, say, in the main body of the Alps, then of course you get to look on other mountains because you're so high up. Whereas Ventoux is such an outlier that you've gone above the point of thinking, oh yes, that's that. It's all very that flat, feature, and that's that feature. You're almost in a different. It feels like you're almost in a different level of the atmosphere where you can't pick out the details that help you feel high up. It's a really uncanny experience for someone from the UK. I think.
Indeed, So
it's fascinating.
I think it's it's also interesting to cycle up a hill that for you is a first time or possibly a kind of a bit of a I've watched other people do it, but I remember I was cycling up and kind of cycling past a French chap who we kind of just had a little chat, and he was saying, oh yeah, I try to come and do it every month or so, and I was like, okay, great. And he was like, watch out here and there, and I go, okay, great. And then in my mind I was like, right, blue crap. And then inevitably sort of 2k up the road, he just blasts past me, not only because he was a much more experienced and better cyclist than I was, but he knew it. He knew the mountain so well, and yeah. But you're right. Once you I guess have that ride in your legs, you develop a knowledge of it that suddenly shifts things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do like that about cycling. I like that it gives you a different dimensional understanding of the terrain.
That's right. Yeah. I wanted to ask you a little bit about what you're planning for this year, where I can hear the rain on the roof. Yes. And so we're recording this in February, and the summer feels a long way away, but I'm aware that people are making plans. I'm making plans. What's going to happen in 2026 on the bike for you?
Yes. Well, there are plans afoot to try and do a trip to Georgia. Gravel ride. I mean, it's relatively early stages, and but yeah, so that would be for sort of early summer, which is very exciting, and that would be we'd hope to do some sort of camping and all of that.
Who's we in this case?
So me and the guys that did the trip all those years ago to Poland.
So this includes our very own Maciek, right?
This includes Maciek, yeah. And then
background here,
yeah, and then our friend Tomek, who lives in Bielsko-Biała, it's coming along too. So yeah, we had a few sort of fallow years where I think me and Tomek were off having families with our respective partners, as opposed to with each other. But now we're kind of trying to do a ride a year.
Yeah.
So that's 2026.
I mean, that sounds fascinating, fabulous. I mean, what an adventure! I don't think I know anyone who's cycled in Georgia before. I don't have a mental image of what this country is.
No,
it's like I just think of Stalin, but he's not there. He's not there anymore. So I mean, that's good news.
It's good news. It's good news.
So more seriously, I guess what you're telling me about the relationship between the three friends and the interruption. How conscious are you that this is about? That cycling is now about maintaining and rebuilding friendships? Is that something in the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, Tomek, who lives in Bielsko-Biała, it's really the only time I would see him, and yeah, so it's definitely about maintaining that friendship and maintaining. I don't know if tradition's the right word, but that sort of,
like a habit almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so I think that definitely is kind of factored into it. I think, to be honest with you, part of it is also probably the slight I don't know, rigor of trying to book something in, not quite knowing what we'll do or where we'll do it, which again is the beauty of cycling, right? You can sort of turn up and decide your adventure, but saying, look, let's do it at this point in the year. Let's go away and do something.
I mean, it's a type of commitment to each other, right?
that
we're saying that time in the future I'll be there just with you.
I
don't know what else is going to come up, but I'm going to be sure that is what happens. And there's a gesture of commitment there, which I think is really, I mean, it's central to friendship, and of course that's a much bigger version of what we see when people are promising to put a ride on at the weekend. I'm going to lead this ride and I'll be there. I might not fancy it by the time I get to the end of the week, but I've said I'm going to be there. So you know what, I'll do my best unless I'm really ill or something happens, something dramatic happens, and that there's a kind of social seeding there that from which things grow.
So. Yeah, I mean, I recognise in myself as well that I'm much more driven to get out and do a regular cycling if there's other people involved. If I'm accountable to people beyond just myself. I'm very good at just saying, do you know what? Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe that settee is the right idea.
Yes, yeah.
Right, and one last question, which I've decided to ask quite a few people, is if you're not cycling, what hobby are we going to find you doing? Oh
gosh. Well, I I do collect hobbies a little bit.
Okay.
So something I have enjoyed doing over the past few years is brewing beer. Do like brewing beer? Yeah.
Welcome to the club. Did I say how welcome you were?
Oh, great. Well, the problem with brewing beer is that you brew a lot of beer, and if you drink all that beer yourself, it's not a healthy thing to do, but B, it's not a way to live your life.
No, maybe it doesn't help with the fitness either.
Indeed, yeah, it's a lot to lug up on too.
When did you get into brewing? How did that happen?
It happened. Well, I don't know, pre-2020, pre-lockdown, because I remember when lockdown happened, there was really no excuses not to brew beer. So, just did a lot of cycling and brewing beer. I think it happened because I think my interest is around doing things which on the surface seem very complicated, but have actually been done for thousands of years by people, right? So, again, achieving something as a group. Brewing beer is just it's a very, very simple at its core process, and you can buy lots of cool stuff that makes you look a bit like a mad scientist, but in its essence it's effectively like making a cup of tea and adding yeast to it to produce alcohol. So anyway, that's so I kind of, it was more of a curiosity thing. It was like, can I brew beer in my kitchen? And it turned out I could, and
I mean, in the nicest way. Have you got to the stage where it tastes really good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
right.
I don't know. To me, it does, and to a few
great.
discerning friends. But yeah. Well, any time, Peter, if you'd be more than welcome.
I don't believe you. I demand to sample it. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's really that's fascinating. I don't think I can't remember having a conversation with anybody else in the club where they go, I often brew beer. Like, no, so that's...
Well, there you go.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
Well, I think with that, we'll close our conversation. And I just wanted to say again, thank you very much for putting yourself forward, especially so early in your membership. It's really it's really appreciated to put yourself out there and introduce yourself to the rest of the club. So I look forward to riding with you.
My pleasure for having me on, and I also look forward to riding with you. What a way to end it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.